Hi, everybody. How are you? Oh, hang on. Why is something echoing? Are you guys getting an echo? Because I am. Okay. Let me know if you are getting an echo. It just seems to be, I hear it in my own ear. Oh, it stopped. There. Yay. Ah. Huh. Let's see. There we go. That's better. Nope. Okay. Thumbs up, no echo. Okay. It's just me. I have my sound settings some weird way. I wonder if I do that. Does that help? Nope. Do that help? Nope. Hang on, let me play with this. Jeez. Oh well. There we go. So here we are. I may end up taking my headphones off so that I don't have to listen to it. I wonder if I can hear it better out there. Oh well. I'll see. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. I changed the. So, play output is there. I don't understand. Oh well. So, I hope everybody's had a good week. I have. I have some great books for you tonight. And I'm gonna keep watching the chat pretty closely because I was still getting a feedback in my own ear. What did I do? Give me just a second here. Ah, that's what it is. Okay, I need to figure out how to do that. But output audio off. There we go. There. Ah, I fixed it. I fixed it. Phew. I had an audio monitor on and it was feeding the audio monitor back into my ears rather than not into into someplace else, which was very, very strange. So anyway, hi everybody. We're here. Good to have you here. I have, like I said, 3 great stories tonight, and they're very, very, very different people. But what I found fascinating about these 3 women was that they were all basically from the same era, born in the early 1900s, died either in early 2000s or late 1990s. Um, had just it was just fascinating to see how their lives were so how the things the events of the time affected each one of them in different ways. It was very cool. I hope you're going to enjoy them. But first, let me get in here and say hi to everybody. Now that I don't have my, no, don't feel like I'm have eaten mushrooms before I came on, which never mind. Yes, Madonna is here. Hi, Madonna. Good to have you here. Tamara is here. Tamara, I hope your sister is doing as well as can be expected with the struggles, and I hope your family is having a getting it all straightened out. I've been thinking about you lots. Um, so Madonna, Lupe's here. Hey, Lupe, nice to have you here. Oh my gosh, it's good to have you here. And there I am. Madonna, all right, there we are. All right, so we've got everybody here for stories. And I've got, like I said, the three artists. One is Gyo Fujikawa. Another artist book is about Leonora Carrington, and the last book is about Louise Bourgeois. So I better get rolling because I got three books I wanted to share, and they kind of all fit together, and it was hard to break them up, so I didn't. I'm just going with it. So this first one is, whoa, I shrunk myself. Lock that overlay. The first one is called It Began with a Page, How Gyo Fujikawa Drew the Way. And it is by Gyo McClear, and it's illustrated by Julie Morstad. Gyo McClear is a writer of many books for children, including Julia, Child and Bloom, A Story of Fashion Designer Ella Schiaparelli, as well as a book, Virginia Woolf. She makes her home in Toronto, and Julie Morstad is the author and illustrator of Today and How To. She illustrated a lot of books for kids, including The Swan, The Dress and the Girl, and This is Sadie and Bloom, A Story of Fashion Designer. But what I like about this book is how they really took the illustrative style of Gyo Fujikawa and brought it to the whole book. Also, the color palette is really, it's just always fascinates me how they managed. It's what makes these books so good. They managed to think about everything: the illustrative style, the color palette, how it fits the story. It's just really great. Okay, so we'll go here. This is called It Began with a Page, and I had to check these out of the library. I couldn't get them on Libby, so this is how we get them today. It began with a page. How Gyo Fujikawa drew the way. And I read some other books illustrated by Gyo Fujikawa, but as we go through this book, I think you'll recognize where some of her work might have fit into your life. It began with a page, bright and beckoning. It began with a mother writing a poem and a father working a field and a little girl named Gyo drawing a picture. Let me just reduce this just a little bit so you can get the whole page. There we go. It was 1913, and Gyo was 5 years old. That morning, her mama said, "Ohio, sleepyhead, it's going to be a busy day." And it was. I love how they show the busy day. Right until nightfall, Mama's friends had come and they were full of talk. We sailed to America with our best kimono to see what we could be. Such disappointment. We need the vote. We need rights. Gyo held her rice bowl and listened with curious ears. Did Gyo know what she wanted to be? Not yet. What she did know was that she liked to draw. She loved the feel of a pencil in her hand, the dance and glide of a line, how a new color could change everything. A bright splash of yellow, a sleepy stroke of blue. Every day she started with an empty white page and filled it with pictures. At home, surrounded by drawing tools and books, anything was possible. But at school, Gyo didn't feel that way. Nope, not a rerun, new one. At school, no one said, "That girl sure can draw." No one noticed her colored pencils or box of paints. No one even noticed when she moved away. Gyo's new home was a fishing village near San Pedro, California. a haven for Japanese Americans, a new life. Roaming with her friends, Gyo felt weightless and free. A ferry ride away, at her high school, Gyo sometimes felt invisible among her mostly white classmates. But her drawings caught the attention of two teachers. Who was this girl whose eyes missed nothing, who could sketch rivers and boats and birds like a dream? Miss Cole and Miss Bloom saw the energy in each line of her drawings. Jo was too poor to go to art school, but Miss Cole found money to pay her way. Jo was nervous to leave her home for the buzz and bustle of downtown Los Angeles. Not many girls, and even fewer Asian American girls, went to college in 1926. But Jo was determined. She sketched statues and flowers and faces. Her sketchbooks filled up one after another. Hungry to know more, Jo set off for Japan, the land of her ancestors, to study traditional Japanese brush painting. But the teachers were full of rules. Instead, she traveled around the country doing her own learning, woodblocks, carving tools, inks made of soot. She lost herself in the prints of Hiroshige, Utamaro, and Hokusai, and floated in a beautiful sea of kimonos. Ah, there the color comes in. Travel fed her dreams, but back in America, it was time to earn money. For the next few years, Jo worked long days painting murals and drawing for magazines. In 1941, she was offered a temporary job designing books at Walt Disney's studio in New York, a city filled with art and artists. It was hard for Jo to leave her family, especially her mother. Little did she know, things were about to get harder still. In early 1942, terrible things were happening. Bombs and gunfire rocked the world. America was at war with Japan. And Jo was shocked to discover that anyone who looked Japanese or had a Japanese name was now suspected of being the enemy. Japanese Americans living on the West Coast were ordered to leave their homes, their schools, their pets, their everything. Jo, along with others living on the East Coast, was told to stay where she was. On the West Coast, families preparing to leave tried to sell their larger belongings like cars and furniture to junk trade dealers, but they were offered only pennies. "I won't sell," said Jo's mother. "You." Instead, she set everything ablaze. Jo's family was sent to a prison camp far, far away from their home. Jo's heart was broken. For the next 3 years, the world shrank, becoming tiny and terrible. Now when she gazed at a white page, no pictures would come. Jo mailed her family letters and sent gifts for her new nephew born in the camp, but her heart would not mend. Eventually, Jo began to draw again. She drew to keep her worries still and to save money her family would need. When angry strangers saw her as the enemy, drawing comforted her. When the world felt gray, color lifted her. She wondered, could art comfort and lift others? When the war ended, the Fujikawas were released. With no house or savings to call their own, they had to start again. For Jo, the next 15 years passed swiftly. There were stamps to create, store windows to decorate, a children's book of poetry to illustrate. There were 2 poodles who needed loving. Now when Jo walked around the city collecting ideas for her pictures, she began to notice little changes around her. That children's book of poetry was The Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Still, there was so much that hadn't changed. At the library and bookshop, it was the same old stories, mothers in aprons and fathers with pipes, and a world of only white children. Jo knew a book could hold more and do more. A book, she told her poodles, can be anything that anyone imagines it to be. Jo knew what she wanted to do. Every day she started with an empty page and filled it with pictures and words. When her book was done, she gave it to a publisher. And what did they see? Babies. Chubby-cheeked, squat-legged, bouncy-bottomed babies. Naughty, nice, oh-so-busy, toddle-crawling babies. But the publisher said no. No to mixing white babies and black babies. It was not done in the early 1960s America, a country with laws that separated people by skin color. But Jo would not budge. She closed her eyes and remembered all the times she had felt unseen and unwelcome. She looked the publisher in the eye and said, "It shouldn't be that way. Not out there in the streets, not here on this page. We need to break the rules." And then she waited for them to rethink their decision. And the babies waited too, and waited. But babies cannot wait. Finally, the publisher said yes. And the book did well. Very well. Babies loved it, so Jo kept going. Welcoming kids in from the edges, from the corners, from the shadows, Jo let every child find a place. Girls and boys freed from pink or blue, sharing jokes, joys, mishap, bruises, all sprawling out across the bright page, ready for a bigger, better world. So here it has this cool timeline. 1941, she was born in 1908 in Berkeley. Great pictures of her mother and her brother. Here in 1939, she joined Walt Disney Studios. Where was it? It was in 1940, Glamour magazine spotlights Jo in an article titled "Girls at Work for Disney." She was a freelancer in the early 40s and 50s, or in the late 40s and early 50s. It was 1957, Grosset and Dunlap published a new edition of Robert Louis Stevenson's A Child Garden of Verses, featuring illustrations by Jo. And then in 1963 was when Babies was published, the first book she did, and illustrates one, and it's still in print. A companion book, Baby Animals, quickly became bestsellers. She says, although I had never had children of my own and cannot say I had particularly marvelous childhood, perhaps I can say I am still a child myself. Part of me just never grew up. She died at the age of 89 in 1973. Oh, no, that's her father died then. Her mother died at 92 and 78, and she died in 1998 on her 90th birthday. Just 3 weeks after her 90th birthday. But you might see this book, Babies, down here. If I can get it up close. Show you. Recognize that kind of illustrative style of it. It is a book that is still published and it's being done. Oh my gosh, I think there's still like board books of it. Very, very well known for what she's done. The books. Baby Animals. She's gone on, Oh, What a Busy Day. Are You My Friend Today? She designed a U.S. postage stamp. She's 6 different stamps in the 60s to 1990s. Wow. Anyway, take that back down to size. There. Yay. So that was, it began with a page. Hi, who hopped in? Oh, Fatima's here. Yes, diverse babies. They're all babies. Yes, the book, let me see. Gyo Fujikawa. Here. babies. Boop-a-doop. Go back. If I go back up to this page here that I had, and if I turn off here, you can see here are some of the books. Oh, What a Busy Day, a child's book of poems, babies, baby animals, fairy tale and fables. Our Gyo Fujikawa's A to Z picture book, Sleepy Time, Mother Goose. So many that she did. Her artwork. Yep, they're still in print. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There. So, anyway, that was the first book. And yeah, it's kind of funny because the color palette, is so calm and just, it's neutral in a lot of ways. And just when she wanted color, they just popped the color into it to talk about how things to change, but it was still all very subtle, soft, serene, very Japanese in style to fit with her. The next book is not calm, serene, and had a totally different kind of art, and how this is called Out of This World, and it's the surreal art of Leonora Carrington. And I tell you, let me pull up just a little bit about this. Leonora Carrington, there it is. She was a surrealist, and let me show you right here, and this is the book, Out of This World, but if I take this off, you can see, oops, this is one of her most famous pieces called The Giantess. There we go. Yeah, and very surreal type style. So it's really interesting, and lots of colors. So the book is much in that fashion too, where we get to see lots of color. Out of This World, written by Michelle Markle and illustrated by Amanda Hall. Michelle loves writing a narrative nonfiction. She's the author of Brave Girl, which won the Bank Street Flora Stieglitz Award and the Jane Addams Children's Book Award, and she's also chosen several awards. She's done recent titles are Hillary Rodham Clinton, Some Girls Are Born to Lead, and Balderdash, John Newbery, and The Boisterous Birth of Children's Book. Oh yeah, I love that book. And then Amanda Hall is the international award-winning British illustrator, particularly renowned for her many wonderfully decorative and colorful picture books and educational illustrations. Out of This World is her second picture book about the life and work of a significant figure from art history. She did the first book she did was The Fantastic Jungles of Henri Rousseau. Oh, another one I have to read. So this is called Out of This World, the surreal art of Leonora Carrington. Leonora. Oh. And the art in this book is done in gouache, watercolor inks, layered with hard and soft pencil crayons to make the illustrations. Wow, look at this. Huh. There we go. Leonora's parents wanted her to be like every other well-bred English girl, but she was not. At the age of 4, Leonora started scribbling on the walls, then on paper, and soon the pictures came flooding out. She sketched the birds that peered at her from the stained glass windows of her mansion. She sketched the horses she'd seen at stables. She drew maps of make-believe planets and illustrated fables about their native creatures. How she loved fantastic tales. Her grandma told her enchanting legends from Ireland, the land of their ancestors. The stories took Leonora to worlds that shimmered beyond this one, and when the spirits flew, the gods stirred their cauldrons and the fairies shifted shapes. Something flew and stirred and shifted inside her. Though she drew more fancifully and more often than most proper girls, her mother and father took little note of it. They wanted her to become a lady, then a rich man's wife. So when Leonora turned 9, they packed her off to boarding school. But her dreaminess went with her. She could neither pay attention nor follow rules. The teachers said Leonora was unteachable and expelled her from one school after another. Still, at Miss Penrose's academy in Italy, Leonora made an important discovery. On visits to churches and galleries, she saw paintings that opened into forests full of knights on horseback, into glittering cities where people dressed in luscious colored garments, and the art reminded her of places she'd been before in her favorite stories. Leonora wanted to paint her own imagined worlds. She refused to find a husband at her debutante ball and every other fancy place her parents forced her to go. There was only one thing she wanted: to become an artist. An artist in those days was highly unsuitable, especially for ladies. Leonora's father was horrified, and her mother was worried. "You're going to be an old maid at 25, she warned. But her parents gave in and sent her to art school. Leonora's timing was perfect. A group of artists called Surrealists was stunning London with their mysterious creations. One of them, Max Ernst, made collages of startling sights: a lady with a bird for a head, a creature whose body sprouted leaves. When Leonora saw his pictures, it was like a match was struck inside her. This was the kind of art she had to make. Art that gave her strange feelings, wondrous as fairy tales. She dashed off to France, where the Surrealists lived. Leonora was barely 20, and most of the artists were bossy older men. Their leader, a poet dressed in bottle green, decided on the rules of the group and ran the discussions at parties and cafes. But Leonora enjoyed writing and painting alongside the Surrealists. She learned to dive into her imagination, to summon memories and secret wishes. She painted a plush chair in her childhood home. A little version of her took a seat. Out flowed her hair like a wild mane. Up went her rocking horse to the ceiling. A hyena tiptoed toward her hand. Leonora and other female surrealists were thrilled to be making art from a woman's point of view. They had no interest in painting women who looked like pretty decorations, as men had done for centuries. Leonora was just beginning to unleash her artistic powers when a terrible thing happened. In 1940, Germany invaded Western Europe. Nazi soldiers arrested and locked up thousands of people in France, including surrealists. Artists and writers fled the country, and so did Leonora. Look at that picture of her fleet, of the Nazis coming in. Look at that. I mean, the artist did an excellent job of representing her work in this book, representing the style. Many of the refugees ended up miles and miles away in Mexico, where they were welcome. It was hard to get used to a new home. It was hard to paint at first. Mexico astonished Leonora. The huge exotic plants in the markets, the curanderos in the roads selling insects, lizards, and magic herbs. Did I get it right, Lupe? Curanderos? Leonora befriended a Spanish artist named Remedios, who lived in a broken-down apartment filled with cats, stones, and magic crystals. Remedios loved the same old Italian paintings as Leonora and felt the same mystical connection to the moon and stars and all of nature. The two women talked and laughed for hours. They cooked up stories and weird concoctions, and Remedios invented a recipe for dreaming you're the King of England. Leonora made up a magic spell to cure Remedios when she was sick. Leonora felt safe. She felt strong. She popped a chocolate in her mouth and reached for her paintbrush, and she painted a house filled with enchanted women. One of them branched into a tree. Another floated through the ceiling, while others brewed a bubbling green potion. There's the hyena again. And there's the rocking horse. In 1943, Leonora met a friend of Remedios's, a photographer named Chiki. The two of them fell in love and later married. But nothing kept Leonora from painting, not struggling to earn money, not tending to her husband and children. She painted with a baby in one hand and a paintbrush in the other. She was like a wizard, stirring egg into her tempera paints, mixing cinnabar, vermilion, and golden umber. And her women did things they didn't do in paintings made by men. Instead of lying on a couch, they were listening to the stars. Instead of posing in gowns, they were going on magical processions. They were friends with monkeys, minotaurs, and mythic birds. An art collector paid Leonora a visit. The studio was shabby, but in her paintings, such miracles took place, in such colors, shining like jewels on the throat of queens. "Could you make more?" he asked. Could she? Night nursery, everything. Chiquiton, yes. Now, show you the picture. Leonora imagined a giantess with gold and wheat for hair, cradling a tiny egg. She painted her on a wooden panel, and it charmed the visitors at her first one-woman exhibition in New York City. That was that image I showed you just right here. That's the giantess. In the years that followed, Leonora's fantastic sculptures perched on the streets of Mexico. Her luminous sets and costumes delighted theatergoers, and her mystical paintings became known throughout the world. She made art until her skin wrinkled and her hair turned gray. She was never rich and never proper, and she never moved back to England. But she became the woman she wanted to be. For Leonora, art was a way to love the universe and understand it. In her paintings, women have special gifts. They can do things beyond anybody's wildest dreams, which is marvelous, and it's powerful, and it's true. She said, Leonora Carrington is known for her dreamlike paintings depicting mystical women and fantastic creatures. She was influenced by surrealism. She was born in 1917, same year my dad was born, actually very close to his birthday. At her time in Miss Penrose's Academy of Art in Italy, she had the opportunity to see many fine examples of Renaissance art. She loved the colors. While in London, Leonora became intrigued with surrealism. At a dinner party, she met Max Ernst, one of the famous painters of the movement. The two of them fell in love and later lived in France, where they socialized with Pablo Picasso, André Breton, Marcel Duchamp, and other surreal artists and writers. Although Ernst was her greatest teacher, Leonora felt a kinship with the women in the group, which included Leonore Fini. After Ernst was was imprisoned during World War II, the couple drifted apart. To escape France, Leonora married Renato Leduc, a Mexican diplomat and a friend of Picasso's. They lived in New York before emigrating to Mexico and then divorced. In her adopted home, Leonora met local artists Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, as well as other refugees from Europe, including the photographer Americo Oitz, whom she later married. That was Chica. And all of the friends Leonora made in Mexico, Remedios Barros was her closest and dearest. The two saw each other daily for many years, sharing their love of cooking, folktales, myth, alchemy, and mysticism. In 1947, Edward James, a rich British art collector, arranged for Leonora's paintings to be shown at Pierre Matisse Gallery in New York, and the exhibition brought her wide recognition. And the illustrator says she came up with the idea for Out of This World after she'd had a collaborative meeting here in Cambridge. She'd previously illustrated another one of Michelle's books, and she loved Michelle's spare and powerful text. Working on Out of This World has given me a lot, all that and more. The journey has been involving and a fascinating one. Boy, it just, so cool. Such beautiful artwork. All of our famous friends. I know, and that's just absolutely amazing to go back and see how they were all connected. So many of the artists and authors. There was the whole group of authors in America, F. Scott Fitzgerald and Flannery O'Connor and all those, and a bunch of other ones. They were all really Ernest Hemingway. They were all friends. It was interesting. So that's another one of how where she had a completely different kind of upbringing than Gyo Fujikawa, but both impacted significantly by World War II. The last book is called Cloth Lullaby, and it's the woven life of Louise Bourgeois. And this one is very different. It's this is a beautiful fabric sculptor that I was not really too much aware of. I heard a little bit about in terms of weaving and tapestry, but not a lot. My mom would have known. But one more. Oh, yep, I got time for one more. So these all wanted to fit. These three women I had to put. Words are by Amy Novesky and pictures are by Isabel Arnasault. Let's see. If it says anything. Isabel is a Governor General's award-winning illustrator of many books for children, including Jane, the Fox, and Me, which I read to you guys. And she lives in Montreal. And then the author is Amy Novesky. She wrote as the author of Georgia in Hawaii and Me, Frida, which won the Purabelle Prey Honor Award for illustration and was an ALA notable book. She lives in San Francisco. I think I read Me, Frida to you. I might have. The book about Frida Kahlo, did I? Cloth Lullaby, The Woven Life of Louise Bourgeois. This is the front of the book. It's just, I mean, it's even a cloth book. It's got that cool cloth cover kind of type things, and the color palette is really limited in this. It is basically, I mean, it's red and blue, and there's a little bit of yellow, but how they're blended, it really sticks to a very primary color palette, and it's just very cool for most of the book. Cloth Lullaby. Louise was raised by a river. Her family lived in a big house on the water that wove like a wool thread through everything. The river's soil nurtured a garden where Louise and her family grew geraniums, peonies, asparagus, and cherry trees, apples and pears, purple tamarisk, pink hawthorn, and sweet-smelling honeysuckle. Along its banks, her father planted poplars. Louise kept diaries of her days, and in a cloth tent pitched in the garden, she and her siblings would stay till the dark surprised them. The light from the house and the sound of the Verdi opera far away through the trees. Sometimes they'd spend the night, and Louise would study the web of stars, imagine her place in the universe, and weep and then fall asleep to the rhythmic rock and murmur of the river water. The river provided flowers and fruit, a lullaby, and a livelihood. Louise's family restored tapestries, art woven from wool, and the wool loved by the tannin-rich waters which cleansed and strengthened it and allowed it to soak up color. At the family's workshop, Louise's mother, like her mother before her, repaired fabric grown threadbare with time. She loved to work in the warm sun, her needle rising and falling beside the lilting river, perfect, delicate spiderwebs glinting with caught drops of water above her. And when Louise was 12 years old, she learned the trade too, drawing in the missing fragments of a tapestry. It was often the bottoms of these fabric pictures that got the most wear and were most in need of repair, so Louise became adept at drawing feet. Drawing was like a thread in a spider's web. Among tapestries neatly stacked like books in a library, Louise's mother taught her daughter about form and color and the various styles of textiles. Some bore elaborate patterns, others told stories. She taught her about the warp and the weft and how to weave the tools of their trade. Two of the first words I ever learned, warp and weft. Spiral-shaped spindles, spools of wool, and a needle. She taught her how to dye. Purplish red was made from crushed cochineal bugs, indigo and gold or yellow from plants. Black wool came straight from the backs of sheep, and that wool smelled. That's how you knew it was real. Louise's mother was her best friend. Deliberate, patient, soothing, subtle, indispensable, and as usual, as indispensable and as useful as an araignée, a spider. Louise's father was not a restorer, but he appraised fine things. He bought Louise beautiful clothes from Parisian department stores, but he was always leaving, which made Louise so mad she threw herself into the river. He brought back cloth scraps from his travels, and Louise's mother fixed them. Two halves of a cloth would find their way back together again. Réentrayage, to reweave across the whole, to make whole. Louise followed the river to Paris, where it flowed into the Seine. Little did she know that one day soon her beloved river would be gone, filled in, flowing no longer with the waters the wool loved, but with cars on their way to the city. A memory. At the university, she studied mathematics. She liked subjects with stability and order, like geometry and cosmography. Stars were predictable, so too the sunrise, the settings of the moon. But she was deeply disappointed to learn that math, like life, is uncertain. While she was still a student, her mother died. Louise was heartbroken. She felt abandoned and all alone, a thread broken. She abandoned math and the stars and turned to painting, applying the lessons she'd learned so far to art. The color blue pinches my heart. She drew, she painted, she wove. She missed her mother so much she sculpted giant spiders made of bronze, steel, and marble. She named Maman. Her mother was not unlike a spider, a repairer of broken things. If you bash into a spider's web, she doesn't get mad. She weaves and she repairs it. Louise gathered all the fabric of her life, all the dresses and the garments her father had bought her, all the bed linens, towels, tablecloths, her new husband's handkerchiefs, and she cut it all up. And then she spent the rest of her life putting it back together again. She sewed, she stitched, she reworked, she wove, she stuffed stockings to create cloth sculptures and figures, a mother and daughter. She sewed colorful spirals and circular webs, and she sewed smaller, sweeter spiders, one woven of soft-colored ribbons, another of cloth, delicate metal. She made cloth drawings and cloth books, the blank pages, napkins from her wedding trousseau. She made books about the hours of the day and the dawn, the rising sun and the stars she once loved. And because she did not want to forget a thing, she made a book about forgetting. Weaving was her way to make things whole. With the remaining fabric of her life, Louise wove together a cloth lullaby. She wove the river that raised her, maternal pinks, blues, and watery hues. She wove a mother sewing in the sun, a girl falling asleep beneath the stars, and everything she ever loved. Author's note, Louise Josephine Bourgeois, wrong last page. When she was done, all of her spiders beside her, she held the river and let it rock her again. It says Louise Josephine Bourgeois was a world-renowned artist, best known for her sculptures made of wood, steel, stone, and cast rubber, and especially her giant spiders, which always seem a little scary until you remember that spiders spin and repair webs. They are weavers, just like Louise's mother. Louise's original spider sculpture made of steel and marble stands more than 30 feet tall. Influenced by her family's history of tapestry restoration, Louise worked with cloth throughout her career, but it wasn't until the last 10 years of her life that she began to create fabric drawings and cloth books, possibly as a way to cope with growing older, as well as to connect with memories of her past. Her parents, especially her mother, and her childhood, from which she said all her art found its inspiration. She says, "My childhood has never lost its magic. It has never lost its mystery and has never lost its dream." Born on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1911, in Paris, France, Louise spent her childhood in Choisy-la-Rue and in Antony, where her parents set up tapestry restoration workshops beside the rivers. In addition to apprenticing in the family atelier, she studied mathematics at the Sorbonne. But when her mother died, Louise turned to art. She married, moved to New York, and became a mother to 3 sons because her art was not yet critically acclaimed. Louise made weavings to raise money for her family. She exhibited her first tapestry in 1943 at the age of 32. 6 years later, she showed her first sculptures. When her father died in 1951, the family tapestry business closed, but Louise carried it on in her own unique way. She acquired a Brooklyn studio, a former garment factory, complete with sewing machines, and a spiral staircase. And at the age of 71, She had a retrospective of her work at the Museum of Modern Art, which finally secured her place as one of the most accomplished artists of our time. She continued to create art until she died in 2010 at the age of 98. Look at that. Oh. So, another person. I'm sure my mom knew about her. My mom had a tendency to go off and search for tapestries and sculptures. I mean, it's tapestry, anything had to do with fabric. When they traveled, they would go and find different woolen mills or tapestry places or where they'd been woven, and that was because mom was a weaver. That's what she loved to do, warp and weft. There was all kind of, we had little ways of remembering the warp and the weft. It was kind of funny. I like spiders. Oh, I'm glad you like them, Tamara. Beautiful. Yes, just weaving and needlework is a lost art. And I grew up around the weaving of the Navajos. So I'm grateful. My mom ended up at one time, Fatima, going down and spending time with the Navajos and learning about how the Inca looms that they used and how they did that. And because she literally, my very first memory is at the floor of her loom and listening to that, her throw the shuttles back and forth. And she wove all the time, all the time. I have a skirt upstairs that is made, she wove the fabric and then made the skirt for my grandmother, and I kept the skirt. Bob has a sport jacket that he can wear now that was actually the fabric. My mom was weaving the fabric. It's my first memory when I'm like 2 of her weaving that fabric. And she had it sent to New York someplace to make it into a sport coat for my dad. And my dad wore it at my daughter's wedding. And then the sport jacket has gone on to my husband now. And Bob has it. It's just beautiful handwork. It's just absolutely amazing. So yeah, I used to pick wool. We'd pick wool, so you could pick it to get the stuff out of it and then card it and all the things that we would do. I loved it. And her hands were always so soft from the wool, the lanolin, because it just softened her hands like crazy. Oh, I'm glad you guys liked them. That was a good, amazing set of women. 3 women all through that time. She doesn't talk in this book too much about I wonder when she moved to France, from France to New York when she got married, because that would have been probably, let's see, she... Didn't see. Anyway, those are the 3 books I had tonight. I just wanted to share them all with you guys. These were all books that were featured at the Museum of Art in New Orleans when I went there. And, I spent the day there. And then at the end of the day, I go to the gift shop and see what books they have and take pictures and then go onto my library and see which ones I can find to check out. And these were 3 that I had. If you have books like that in your own, if you go to your own local museum, go to the bookshop and just see what they are. And then you can always see what books they have and take pictures, send them to me, and I'll see if I can check them out if I haven't read them already. It would be great to add to it because I love these about artists and about the different way that they did that and how not only the artwork of the artists themselves, but also the artwork of the illustrators. Like this book on Louise Bourgeois, I was trying to see if I could It says, the illustrations in this book were rendered in ink, pencil, pastel, watercolor, and Photoshop. But it had such a limited color palette, but it was so cool. It was just and the yellow was used was a really muted yellow. It was so cool. I just loved it. Anyway, and the spider. Oh, the spider is awesome. Hey, hi, you guys. Oh, I'm back. Okay, I think the storm that we have coming in is getting ready to take out my internet. Thank goodness for Ecamm. It retained the stream. It does that for me. It's just wanted me to know if I wanted to resume. So I'm not going to stay on much longer because we've got fairly cold weather coming in, and and so because everything kind of cut out all of a sudden and came back. But everybody, I just wanted to say thank you for being here tonight on Thursday night for Story and Art. Well, I'll be here on Sunday. Don't forget to send your stuff in, and we'll have story time as well as show and tell. I have some photos to show, and I also want to show you guys this cool way I just found on Lightroom of that you can do it before and after, and how you do your edits. So I'm posting them over on Instagram, and that is how they're showing up. I'm putting some out, but I've got some new photos I'm trying to get, and I've done a couple pieces of art. Maybe I did a kind of goofing around I showed you, but you guys send your stuff in. I want to see yours. Tamara, send in things. Fatima, send in things. Madonna, send in things. Linda, send in your stuff. Come on, go. Tease Larry, everybody. Bucket fillers, come on. Lupe, everybody send your stuff in for show and tell on Sunday night. And bucket fillers, you know this. Until then, I will be back with more stories on Sunday night, and we'll have show and tell. But until then, everybody, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around you. And the first place you'll find it, though, is when you go look in your mirror. And I will see you next time.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Ooh, feeling alright. We won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous, wow. Ooh, you got me feeling starstruck too. We could be famous, we could be famous. Come and be famous. You blow my mind.